Hello, it's Alex and welcome to Hey Little Thrifter. Today I'm going to be talking about a book I read recently and enjoyed. It is Satanic Panic, Pop Cultural Paranoia in the 1980s. This is a collection of essays edited by Kier-La Janisse and Paul Corupe. And this book is going to get heavy quickly, so I'm going to put it down and replace it with a picture. I grew up in the UK in the 1980s, but I honestly don't remember any of this kind of coming into my consciousness at the time. I think I was maybe too young, but it is something that over the years I've heard the term and looked into it, and when I saw this book recently I knew I had to buy it because it was just a topic that kind of fascinates me. So to give you a brief overview on Satanic Panic, in case you don't know what I'm talking about, this is the fear of satanic ritual abuse and the idea that there is an underground network of Satanists who are committing crimes, they are kidnapping and abusing children, they are sacrificing babies. Not only that, but that it could be happening in your community, it could even be your next door neighbour. In addition to that, it also involves the idea that things in popular culture are part of the conspiracy in order to indoctrinate children and teenagers into Satanism. And a lot of the pop culture that was part of this whole panic was cartoons like He-Man and She-Ra, it was heavy metal music, it was role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, and on the surface, you know, that just seems ridiculous and maybe even somewhat amusing. But this was really serious. It led to people being put in jail for things they didn't do, which is frightening, quite frankly. And I guess at this point I should say that I'm not a religious person. If you want me to be classified, then I am an atheist. So I just thought that was worth mentioning, just so you can maybe understand my perspective on this. One of the catalysts for the Satanic Panic during the 1980s was a book called Michelle Remembers. This was written by Michelle Smith and Lawrence Pastor, MD. This is Michelle's account of abuse that she detailed as being satanic ritual abuse that took place to her when she was a child during the 1950s. And Lawrence Pastor was her psychiatrist, and at some point they also got married. So yeah, if that doesn't ring an alarm bell for you, I don't know what would. But they became hugely famous on the basis of this book, and some years later it was all completely discredited. But by that point the damage had already been done. And I have this copy that I stumbled upon a while ago at a library book sale and figured I would grab it. And I have some interest to read it, but honestly I think it's just going to make me angry, so I haven't yet. If you've read it, let me know, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Another famous part of the Satanic Panic era is known as the McMartin Trial. This was about the owners and workers at the McMartin daycare for children, and in 1983 the owners and workers at the daycare, several of them went on trial for claims of satanic ritual abuse of the children in their care. Apparently the trial itself went on for 5 years and there were no convictions. Then in 1988 in the US there was a TV special called Devil Worship, exposing Satan's underground, and this was, you know, a scaremongering TV show perpetuating this idea of Satanists next door. So the book goes into detail on each of those 3 cases that I just mentioned, and it goes into detail on many more cases and instances and general themes within the Satanic Panic era. Each essay is written by a different author, and throughout the book we have various photos and illustrations, and in the centre there are a few colour ones, if we get there any moment now. And yeah, so I think it's a really well put together book. Like, it looks great and it's really interesting. And I think the essays themselves, as with any collection, there are bound to be some that are better than others. That probably comes down to personal taste. I felt that most of the essays in here were well written, well researched, well put together. They were interesting to read. And it was really only a few that I just maybe didn't find as interesting or as well written, but overall it was a strong collection. And while I was familiar, or at least aware, of some of the subjects of the individual essays in this book, there were also plenty of other ones that I had not heard of, various people or cases that I didn't know about, so all of that was really interesting. And even the ones that I did already know about, I still enjoyed reading them because it went into a bit more depth than maybe I already knew. And the final essay in the book is actually about the film The Burbs, directed by Joe Dante, starring Tom Hanks. It's a comedy about a group of people who live in a cul-de-sac in the suburbs, and they start to believe that the neighbours in one particular house are Satanists. So they take it upon themselves to spy upon them and try and figure out what's going on over there. And this was a film I absolutely loved as a kid and has just been a favourite throughout the years. So I wore my Burbs t-shirt today, which I don't know if you can see, but has Tom Hanks and everyone else in this pentacle, along with the sardines. And after reading that essay and finishing the book, I rewatched the film because it's been some years since I've seen it, so it was interesting to watch that in this context, and also it's still a brilliant and hilarious film. And just to mention Dungeons and Dragons again, I never actually played the game. I do remember the cartoon spin-off back in the day, and also I dug through some boxes of mine, through all my old knickknacks, to specifically find these to show you in this video, but I still have these two Dungeons and Dragons holograms, which I guess must have come in like a box of cereal or something, I don't quite remember, but these were from 1986, and yeah, for some reason I felt the need to keep hold of these all these years. Yeah, I think they're brilliant. They just scream the 80s to me. So if any of the things I've mentioned so far pique your interest, then I would definitely recommend going to check out this book. I found it fascinating. There are various things in here, like the films, the music, the imagery, that over the years I have had an interest in and could be said to be corruptive, but I turned out just fine.